And away we go. Wednesday edition of the show, all across America, SportsMap Radio. Worldwide, the SportsMap Radio app. We got a lot to do over the next 3 hours. I'm just watching the Knicks blow a late 5-point lead in Chicago against the Bulls, so don't mind me. Oh, we're in the thick of it, baby. We are in the soup. We got all your games covered throughout the night. We'll do our usual live betting segments. Another winner last night, cooked up fresh by yours truly. As I said, a lot to talk about. Matt Verderam will be our 2-for-1 tonight. He'll join us coming up in about 33 minutes. Talk some NFL with the national NFL writer from Fansided and ask him what's going on, because it seems to be some traction on the Odell Beckham Jr. story. Just as we were thinking last night, is anybody going to sign him? Now it's sounding like not only might he sign, but he may actually wind up signing with the Cowboys. So we'll get into that coming up a little later on in the show. Our live betting game tonight, we're waiting for it to get started. It should any moment, and that is Minnesota and the Clippers. Not going to lie, that one doesn't get me all that excited. Doesn't get me as excited as the Lakers and Celtics last night did. That was a fun basketball game. So we'll have some fun with the live betting as we go through the evening. And lots to talk about. The phone number, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You want to tweet at the show, at The Back Page. Again, on Twitter, at The Back Page. John Belmer helping Charles run the board. See, Charles doesn't get a last name yet because he's just training on the show, so Charles is just Charles. You earn a last name. It's kind of like, you ever seen, see, he's too young. He probably hasn't seen Young Guns 2. Young Guns 2, you don't get a name until you do something special. It's like being an Ohio State Buckeye. You don't get a sticker until you make a big play. So that's the way we're viewing Charles right now. He's just Charles. That's it. Like Madonna, Cher, he's just Charles. That's all he gets. We're coming back. We got plenty more to talk about. Stick around. Just getting started. Draymond Green is in my crosshairs next on the Cash In SportsMap Radio. Game's going to go to overtime. Pizza's on its way. Should be here any minute. It says ETA is 7:12, so I would just go out there. Like there, I could see the person.
Do they know where to come? Did you tell them the fountain? Honey. Did you tell them the fountain?
Yeah, he's coming down Amato. So that's where he's going to come in. That's undoubtedly where he's going to go. I've already tipped him. So. My money don't jiggle, jiggle. It folds. All right, we're underway on this Wednesday edition of the program. Knicks and Bulls going to overtime in the Windy City, tied at 117. We'll keep you posted on that. Knicks are playing good basketball. I think they've won 4 in a row. How about chomp on this for a second? The Knicks have a better record than the Golden State Warriors, and we're well past the 1/3 point of the NBA season. Now, if it ends the season that way, that'd be a real headline. Because it's not like the Knicks are tearing up the town by any stretch, but man alive. Again, all eyes on the Cowboys tonight. We will keep you posted if anything breaks during this show. There is word that something could be happening soon as it relates to a deal for Odell Beckham Jr., which is interesting considering the team has already signed T.Y. Hilton, who could play this weekend for the Cowboys. So definitely a lot to keep an eye on as we move through the show tonight. Matt Verderam will also be our guest, national NFL writer over at Fansided. We'll get some thoughts with him on everything going on around the NFL. So let me begin. First of all, some interesting news out of the NBA tonight. Stephen Curry leaving the Warriors game late third quarter on the road against Indiana. And he left because of a shoulder injury. He had already been listed as questionable for the game. Warriors lose again, by the way, 125-119 to a Warriors team that's now a game over 500. The Warriors are 2-13 away from Chase Center. I mean, this is crazy what's going on with this team right now. And I heard Zaza Pachulia today, or Pachulia, I don't know, it depends. You say tomato, I say tomato, in terms of how you pronounce his name. But I saw Zaza was on a sports talk station in the Bay Area today, 95.7 The Game, my old stomping grounds, and he was talking about the fact that, it's, just a blip in the road, the Warriors will still be there at the end. I don't see it at this point. Not based on what we've seen through, almost 30 games. This team is in a world of trouble. I mean, we're basically 40% of the way done with the NBA season. This team's 14-15, and they can't win on the road. Curry tonight, 38 in less than 3 full quarters of basketball. But the problem continues to be everybody else. Now, I know that Klay Thompson didn't play tonight. But, in 27 minutes, Draymond Green had 1.2 rebounds, 3 assists, and 6 turnovers. And it's hard to be much worse than that. So the Warriors lose. And let me just talk about Draymond for a second, because as I woke up this morning and was consuming my morning dose of Starbucks, my morning injection, as I like to call it, I came across an item about Draymond Green, and we touched on it on last night's show, that he had a fan ejected. And we didn't know what was said at the time between Draymond and this fan that were going back and forth. They were jawing at each other. But as Giannis Antetokounmpo got to the free throw line with about 6:30, about halfway through the third quarter of the eventual Bucks win, a fan with baseline courtside seats was heckling Draymond. And according to Draymond, the fan said, quote, "some threatening things to my life." Now, he didn't really go into specifics, I don't think, in terms of what exactly it was. The fan was escorted out of the arena. Buck said the ejection was under the referee's discretion. They're investigating the situation, conferring with the NBA. And then Green said this after the game: "Some people look at NBA players like they're superhuman, that they're this larger-than-life figure. So you come and you get someone to say something back, and they get fined. They go home and laugh with their buddies. I think it's just one of those things when you can hold it in and get to the ref and get them out, it's great," is what he said. Green said he feels it would take something someone outside of the NBA to make real change regarding fan decorum. Quote, there are no real consequences, Green said. I want you to hear that quote one more time. There are no real consequences. Yeah, you can't come back to the game, or even if you get arrested, nothing really happens. You just hope it gets to a point where these leagues can work with legislators to implement laws, because that's the only thing that's really going to correct the issue. Let me give some advice to Draymond Green. Pipe down, okay? You, of all people, have zero credibility in this area. This is the same Draymond Green that essentially committed an assault against one of his coworkers / teammates and still has a job, much less wasn't arrested. I mean, are you kidding me? Draymond Green? You're going to sit here and talk about the lack of consequences when you live in a world that's allowed you to operate without consequences for the entire time you've been with the Warriors, which is exactly why you were able to slug one of your teammates and still have a job. This is beyond hypocrisy. This is flat out laughable. And will anybody call out Draymond for saying this? No, of course not. Because he's a darling of the media. He always says something interesting. They want to be able to hire him when his career is done with the Warriors, which may be sooner rather than later, the way things are precipitously dropping in the Bay Area for the Warriors. But for Draymond Green, of all the people in the world, a guy who was talking trash back and forth with one of his own teammates in practice and took it upon himself to sucker shot him in full view of his teammates and walked away without a single game suspension. Not a single game. Oh, the Warriors said we're gonna handle it internally. I mean, it's just laughable how out of touch some of these guys are, how out of touch some professional athletes are, how they live in this bubble, this world where they're not held to account, but everybody else should be. And again, I have no idea what the fan said. I'm not saying the fan was right. I'm not saying the fan didn't say anything that shouldn't have gotten him thrown out of a game. But to talk about a world without consequences when you're Draymond Green and your entire career in Golden State has been predicated on the idea of not having any consequences to your actions, it's laughable. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. If you want to tweet at the show, go ahead and do it. At the back page, again, hit me up on Twitter at any point during the show. At the back page. Did the Knicks finish falling apart yet? See. I don't know. 125-119 Knicks. 45 seconds to go in overtime. So in the amount of time I was lambasting Draymond Green, the Knicks managed to do what they were supposed to do in overtime, and they're going to win their 5th in a row, which is a bit of an eye-opener because they were sort of stumbling through the first 25 games of this season. Win 2, lose 3, win 3, lose 2. That was sort of the Knicks' MO over the first 25 games of the season, and now here they are about to go to 15-13, 2 games over 500 on the road if they get this win tonight, and they were getting it from everybody tonight. Julius Randle, 31. They got 4 starters in double figures. They didn't get anything from their bench, but boy, they had 4 starters in double figures. Randle at 31 and 14 with 7 assists. Jalen Brunson with 30 and 7 assists. Boy, Jalen Brunson has been everything you could have asked for if you were a Knicks fan. Everything you could have asked for. And boy, do the Dallas Mavericks miss him in a bad way. RJ Barrett, 22 tonight. Quentin Grimes had 14. Knicks really doing some things. They're going to win this game. They're up 9 with about 27.9 seconds to go. We'll do some live betting on the show tonight, as we always do. The late game has just gotten started in Los Angeles, the Clippers and the Timberwolves. That game just underway. We'll keep tabs on it and give you some live betting advice at some point throughout the show. Jim Irsay made some interesting comments that I'll get to later on in the program tonight as well, talking about the future of one Daniel Snyder as owner of the Washington Commanders. Roger Goodell doing his usual thing. And by usual thing, I mean just covering up and trying to move on and move past any sort of controversy involving the NFL. We'll get to that coming up a little later on in the show. But the Knicks are going to get a win. The Warriors lost again tonight. They are now an under 500 basketball team at the 30-game point of the NBA season. And again, at this point, we have to assume this is kind of what the Golden State Warriors are. It's not as if, and I know Andrew Wiggins hasn't been playing, which certainly is a factor, because when you talk about the championship run the Warriors made last year, Andrew Wiggins was an enormous part of it. But when you start to look at this team and what they are through the first 30 games of the season, basically, you got to start assuming this might just be what the Warriors are. Might be a down year for them. And again, I'll be very curious to see what that leads to as far as Joe Lacob is concerned, because he's paying, he's got a payroll to the tune of $195 million for this Warriors team. And he's paying all sorts of luxury tax on all of that stuff. And he's not going to be happy if this is a 500 basketball team. Maybe they make a move at the deadline. Maybe they try to improve. We've never really seen the Warriors do that sort of thing during this championship run that they've been on. They've always just rode with the horses they had. But the horses they have right now are kind of pulling up lame. So we'll see exactly what happens. All right, live betting on the other side. Lots to do as we continue in this hour of the cash-in. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. And again, hit me up on Twitter at The Back Page. We continue on SportsMap Radio. Bites are massive. Feel free to have a couple more, a little hot. Domino's has arrived. I got a specialty pizza. I don't normally do the specialty stuff, but I got a steak and cheese pizza tonight. Oh, look who it is. The man who's abandoned me. "26 minutes past the hour. The cash-in continues on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. I'm just sitting during the break, noshing on some Domino's tonight. This is not a paid endorsement, by the way. I'm noshing on some Domino's, those Parmesan bites. They give you an order of 32. I would need 7 people here to eat 32 Parmesan bites. I could see the guys in Houston right now saying, "Oh, we'll come over and eat them. Free food, radio, sign me up." Sorry, guys. But, I was just thinking about this Draymond Green thing as I was kind of sitting here during the interlude. And the more I think about it, the more it kind of infuriates me. And I wonder if fans, I wonder if it's one of these stories that only matters to me, and if fans just kind of slough it off and they don't care. Now, that's sort of, I sometimes wonder if we've become so numb to these things, so immune to these things, that we just sort of let it go. That we don't really, there's the faux outrage, there's the shock of the moment, and then we're moving on to the next thing in sports. As in life, we just go from thing to thing to thing, and that's the 75 or 80 or 85 or 90 years of your life is just moving on from the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. But Draymond Green, I'll use the same exercise I used last night with Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers were any other quarterback in the league who hadn't won a Super Bowl already or a couple of MVPs, let's just say he was Davis Mills. If Davis Mills had gone on a podcast or a radio show or whatever you call Pat McAfee's show these days on YouTube in front of, who knows how many people consume that interview? 500,000 people maybe? But let's just say Davis Mills, the quarterback of the Texans, one of their 2 starting quarterbacks, was to have gotten on a show and said, "Oh, yeah, man, during the offseason, I was hitting up that ayahuasca and taking some shrooms, and I saw the other side. Man, it was amazing." And he was playing like the hot garbage that Aaron Rodgers has basically played like through the first 75% of this NFL season. And be honest about it. That Aaron Rodgers hasn't played well. The thumb. Well, he chose to play. And the organization thought he was healthy enough to play, which was an idiotic move, but I've already talked about that ad nauseum. But let's just say it was Davis Mills who had made those comments to Pat McAfee. He'd be in the office the next day getting undressed, and the team would be figuring out, how do we move on from this guy? Jeff Driscoll will be our starting quarterback. Imagine if just your run-of-the-mill quarterback, if Daniel Jones of the Giants went and said some of the crazy things that Aaron Rodgers has been saying both last year and this year, and was just putting up mediocre numbers, Giants wouldn't even be thinking about, they'd be planning who their next quarterback is. How do we move up in the draft to get one of the big 3? What can we package together? Who can we get in free agency? Because it wouldn't be Daniel Jones. No, Aaron Rodgers gets a pass because he could throw a football really well, or has thrown a football really well, because right now he's not even really throwing a football very well. He's got more interceptions this year than he's really had in his entire career, at least in his prime years. So I say the same thing about Draymond Green. If Draymond Green was just run-of-the-mill NBA forward, not part of a zillion championships, he wouldn't be getting the pass that he's been getting by the Golden State Warriors. So for that guy, that Draymond Green, to go to the press and say there's no consequences for bad fan behavior. Draymond, there's no consequences for bad player behavior, especially in Golden State with the Warriors. So it's, again, to me, the height of hypocrisy. I wonder if anybody else will say anything about it, but I doubt it. But Draymond Green, guy's got to get a clue. And again, he's going to say some outrageous thing. And I'm not saying that he doesn't have value to the NBA, that there isn't any entertainment value in some of the things he does off the court. I'm just saying that doesn't overshadow the fact that he's an enormous hypocrite on this issue and the last person that should be talking about real consequences. If you or I or anybody else did what Draymond Green did in a place of work, oh, I know the NBA is not a typical place of work. Professional sports is not the same. Locker room talk, ha, ha, ha. We can get away with different things because we're special and we're part of the 0.5% of the country that can play basketball really well or at a supremely professional level. So we just get away with different things. And that sort of mindset and that sort of thinking is how you get to Draymond Green. It's how you get to a spot where you think you can just slug somebody, cold cock somebody in a NBA practice. A guy that you've got to, and we're not even talking about some first-year rookie who's mouthing off. We're talking about a guy who they just signed to a monster deal to remain with the organization. And you wonder when all is said and done, just what the chemistry factor is like in Golden State with the Warriors right now, and if it has anything to do with what you're seeing right now with this team. All right, our live betting game of the night, Timberwolves and Clippers, just underway. 3:32 to go first quarter. Timberwolves lead the Clippers 17-10. It's Minnesota plus 3.5 on the live spread over on FanDuel Sportsbook, and plus 140 on the money line, and 207.5 is the total. We will keep tabs on it. It's very early in that game. I don't tend to do anything unless there's a huge value proposition to be found, that being, a money line bet on a home team that's down big. But right now, Minnesota's up 17-10 on the Clippers, and you're still talking about minus 180 for the Clippers. So the books clearly still believe that when all is said and done tonight, the Clippers will get a victory. Dallas, by the way, at home tonight, our affiliate 97.1 The Freak in Dallas, the flagship for Dallas Mavericks basketball. Cleveland doing a number on the Mavericks so far right now. 70-53 in that game. And even Luka's having a rough night. Everybody on the Mavericks having a rough night. Luka in 25 minutes, 4-14 from the field, 11 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds. The live betting on that, and you guys know how I feel about live home underdogs on the money line. Dallas plus 900. Problem is, Cleveland's a good basketball team. And as much as I like live money line home underdogs, it's kind of tough to go with the Mavericks right now, down 18 at home with 5:13 left to go in the third quarter. But you know what I always say? Teams are going to make runs. Home team is always going to make a run in these games. And, it's just a question of when the Mavericks make their run and how close they get. We did it with the Lakers last night, and they didn't wind up finishing the deal. But the bet we gave you was the spread, which was 12.5 to the Lakers when they were down big at home to the Celtics. They should have been able to win on the money line as well, but unfortunately, they fell apart late in the game. So we'll keep an eye on the Cavaliers and Mavericks as well. If anything kind of pops out there, we'll give you some advice on that as well. All right, the phone number, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You can always tweet at me at the back page. Again, hit me up on Twitter at the back page. My man Matt Verderam's going to stop by the show. Does a great job for Fansided, their national NFL writer. There's an update on the Marcus Mariota story, too. So when it looked like he was abandoning the team, now the story today is he's going to have some minor surgery on his knee, which is also going to knock him out for the season. So a bizarre situation in Atlanta. We'll ask Matt Verderam about that. See what he knows about the Cowboys situation as well, involving Odell Beckham Jr. Whole bunch more to do in this hour of the show. Our 2 for 1. Matt Verderam joins us next on the program. Talk some NFL with him on the Cash In. SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Let's get to the chorus here. Let me know when we have a minute left in the break. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks for being with us on this Wednesday edition of the show. A lot of news around the NFL, as always. We're at that time of the season. Good time to catch up with this guy. We haven't talked to him for a while. Our 2 for 1 tonight is Matt Verderam. Does a great job. NFL writer over at Fansided. Joins us on the Cash In SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. All right, so let's start with the Cowboys because Jerry Jones is making it, and again, who knows what's true and what isn't when it comes to Jerry. He has a tendency to say things sort of off the cuff and on the fly, but it sounds like a decision is close when it comes to Odell Beckham Jr. Is there any reason to believe now they're not going to sign him?
I mean, there have been reports out there, I think it was from ESPN, that Odell Beckham wasn't even going to play this year, and that came out this morning. So I have no idea what's going on with Beckham. Like I reported months ago that he was looking at, or that 5 teams were believed to be interested in him, and the Giants were already known to have been lurking, and the Cowboys are basically always known to lurk. And some of those teams have moved on, or just have simply just not played well enough to bring him in. Teams like the Rams and the Packers. I think at this point, if he's going to sign somewhere, it's going to be Dallas. I think the Cowboys are obsessed with the star system. If they get Beckham in there, Jerry's looking at it in two ways. Jerry figures, hey, if he's on the field and he helps us, that's positive, and also we can sell a bunch of jerseys. And that's how Jerry looks at it, because Jerry's thinking to himself, man, we sell a whole bunch of jerseys out of the team store with a 13 on the back. So I think if he's going to sign somewhere this season, it's a pretty good bet at this point. It's going to be Dallas.
Is there a thought, though, that, you get him now, you get him before the deadline for him potentially being able to play in the postseason, with the idea that if you make a deep run, something the Cowboys haven't done in ages, but if you make a deep run, you'll still be able to potentially have him, in an NFC title game potentially?
I think it's worth it. I mean, look, I think if you're one of these teams, it's worth kicking tires on him. I mean, look, at this juncture, whatever you do, you're signing him as a mercenary for the rest of this year. He's not going to sign past this season, obviously. It's going to be a quick rental, and then he's going to hit the market again. He's going to try to cash in. And I'll tell you, I think this market's going to be fascinating, because let's say he doesn't play, and he hits free agency next year in March with the rest of the free agency crop, and it's not a great group of receivers. The market went crazy last year at that position. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill getting these $30 million deals, and Christian Kirk getting $20+ million a year from Jacksonville. Like, he's not going to get $30+ million. I mean, Beckham at this point, he's in his 30s. He missed an whole year with an ACL. But what is he going to command? Like, is he going to get Christian Kirk money? Is he going to get more than that? I'll be fascinated to see what kind of a contract he gets. But I think right now, if you're Dallas, there's no point. Like, if you could get him for a song, I mean, why not? Why not do it? Maybe just his contract is basically just all incentives, and he's either okay with that or he's not.
Is he? I wonder if at this point he's sort of late career Terrell Owens. When Terrell Owens went to go play in Buffalo, if he's that sort of guy that you just don't give a long-term deal to, that you bring him in for a year, maybe 2 years tops, maybe the second year is a team option, whatever it may be. That he's that sort of guy that, because of the way he left the Giants, the way he left the Browns, and it was just a short stint in Los Angeles with the Rams, that maybe he's just this sort of guy that, while he is a world of talent and can certainly make an impact, teams are just not going to want to make the long-term investment in.
I wouldn't. I mean, and that's not because, like, sometimes you hear that and you think, oh, he's a bad guy. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's a guy who it's been hard to keep him happy for a long period of time. And part of that, to be fair to him, is I think, look, the Giants, when he left, they were a dumpster fire at that point. I don't blame him in the least for wanting to get out of there. And the Browns, I mean, that speaks for itself. Although I will say, the Browns really, when he was there, were actually on the come up for a while. I mean, they actually were starting to get better. But, the quarterback situation, everything unravels there. So the other side of it too is, forget even personality wise, he's been injured a lot. He's on the wrong side of 30. Now, to me, I would be concerned about giving him 2 years guaranteed, because you have no idea what kind of return you're going to get for that. And I'd rather, at this juncture, with all these receivers who've come out of the draft the last couple of years, who have just been phenomenal talents, I'd rather just go draft a receiver in the first 20 picks, 30 picks, and just say, you know what, we got 5 years of control on the cheap. I'd rather go that route.
I got to say, though, my whole beef with the idea of the Cowboys getting him is, you've got a good thing from a chemistry standpoint now. This team has shown how mentally tough it is. They got through the issues at the beginning of the year without Dak, and they were able to sort of keep the boat afloat and then some with Cooper Rush at quarterback. You know what your identity is. I wonder how much bringing in somebody like him, if he were to play, and again, it doesn't look like he's going to, but even just in the locker room and having him around the team, you just wonder from a chemistry standpoint if it's the right move and if Jerry even cares.
Well, that's the thing. Does Jerry care? I mean, that's the whole argument. I think for Jerry, again, it comes down to two things. Can he win you some games? Maybe. And can you sell a lot of jerseys? Yes. So I think right there, it makes it interesting for Jerry.
And you block the Giants from getting him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I think if you're Dallas, you're sitting there looking at the NFC and you're thinking to yourself, okay, look, realistically, this conference is Philadelphia, it's San Francisco, and it's us. I mean, because I know Minnesota fans would be rankled by that. I don't think anybody looks at Minnesota realistically and thinks they're going to the Super Bowl. So if you are a Cowboys fan, or if you're somebody even in the building with Cowboys, I think you're right to look at the conference and say, well, you got Philadelphia who's 12-1, who's been awesome. We're a contender at 10-3. We have a great defense. We have an offense that certainly is capable. And then the Niners, I mean, it seems like they could put me at quarterback and win 12 games. So I think you feel like, hey, listen, you've got to respect them. They've got a great roster. They might have the best roster in the NFL outside of the quarterback. So I think if you're the Cowboys, if you think Beckham can make the difference in one big playoff game, that might be the difference between going to the Super Bowl and not.
I look at what the Patriots have done this season. And, granted, they went in and beat a Cardinals team that was playing without Kyler Murray virtually the entire game. I get it.
Yep.
But, I look at what the Patriots have done this year, and I'm not a Patriots sycophant by any stretch of the imagination. But 7-6 in a tough AFC, with the lack of talent they have in the receiving game, sort of scuffling along with Mac Jones this year. Then they had the Mac Jones injury. For all the things he's done as a head coach, this might be one of Bill Belichick's better coaching jobs. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. I think last year was one of his best coaching jobs. They're not good roster-wise. I mean, Patriots fans always go crazy when I say this. Uche and Judon, awesome tandem on the edge. The rest of that team, it's like just the guy central. I mean, I don't. The secondary, I think they're better than anybody expected. I like Duggar, I like McCourty, but they're not. You don't look at the patch and go, "Wow, they have 5 Pro Bowlers on that team." I mean, you don't. I don't know if they have 1 Pro Bowler on offense. I mean, maybe one of the backs like Stevenson, but I mean, they're not an offensively challenging team. I mean, they're not a team that you're going to play and be worried about playing if you're a defensive coordinator. And yet, they're 7-6, and they're going to go play the Raiders this week, and they're going to beat the Raiders because Josh McDaniels is not beating Bill Belichick. So, I think you look at it, which, by the way, ironically, he actually did the one time they met up, Denver in the past years ago. History will not repeat itself this season. But you know what? I just think the Patriots are great at one thing: they don't beat themselves. You have to beat them. They're not going to take a bunch of penalties. They're typically not going to turn the ball over very much. They're going to be very schematically sound. And that sounds boring, and it looks boring sometimes, but that wins a lot of football games. If you do that, you're going to win a lot of games. And New England, over the last couple of years, no Tom Brady, not a lot of talent on offense, and yet they find themselves year in and year out in the playoff race because they do not give games away.
Matt Verderame, NFL writer at Fansided, joining us here on the Cash In SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. All right, let me run through some coaching questions with you. Carolina, Steve Wilks, he has to have earned that head coaching job with what he's done with a Carolina team that was basically left for dead. They got rid of Christian McCaffrey. They fired the head coach. I mean, there was all sorts of disarray there. He's basically had him play 500 ball, I think, since he got there. Has Steve Wilks earned this head coaching position, and what's taking them so long to give it to him?
He has, in my mind. I mean, look, you can fake a lot of things in the NFL. You can't fake effort. And the Panthers, that's a team that traded away Christian McCaffrey. There's all kinds of rumors about, they're going to trade Moore. Are they going to trade? Are they going to move up Brian Burns? And of course, they didn't. But that team has played really hard under Steve Wilks. They are buying into him. They want to win for him. That stuff matters. Like that stuff, you can talk about all the other stuff in the world. That team has very little talent. I mean, Darnold is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. Defensively, they have some. I mean, I like Horn. I like Burns. But they need a lot of pieces. And yet they find themselves, now this is because of the division, if we're being fair. If they win out, they win the division. They make the playoffs. I mean, it's crazy as that is. They are in control of their own destiny. So I think Wilks absolutely deserves a job. And people who say, well, he was one and done in Arizona. I defy anybody to tell me who could have coached that Arizona team and done anything. That team was a tire fire. Okay, Lombardi couldn't have coached that team to 7 wins. So, to me, Steve Wilks absolutely deserves a shot at the head job in Carolina.
Cliff Kingsbury, will he make it to another season? You know, the injury problems, no DeAndre early in the year. There's some excuses for him there. Is Kingsbury going to be back in Arizona?
You know, that is a really, really interesting situation because he signed an extension before the season began. And that stuff's always murky with coaches, like how much did he sign for and how much of it's guaranteed. But, you know, are there options to get out of it, buyout clauses, stuff like that. So it's hard to say based off of that. But Michael Bidwell, who owns the team, is not exactly known as someone who just throws money around left and right. I have a hard time thinking he's going to want to eat a huge chunk of that contract and then also go out and get another head coach. My gut is that he's back. The only thing that you could say, hey, look, they just got to move on from him is it has been so bad with him and Murray publicly all year long. And Murray, you're not moving on from. He's going to be there for the next couple of years at a minimum. And then today, you know, Steve Keim, for health reasons, he's going to be on the rest of the year. You wonder with Keim, who also got an extension this offseason, is he back going forward? Because if he's not, then I think Kingsbury's gone. Because then I think you have a situation where GM's going to come in there and go, look, I want a new coach. And it's going to be really hard for Bidwell to tell the guy no. So that is a significant development.
Can anything save Nathaniel Hackett?
God. And I don't even know if God's got the power to save Nathaniel Hackett. No, man, it's over. That's beyond, though. That's been over since like Halloween. I mean, Hackett seems like a really nice guy who's really in over his head. And sometimes it happens. Sometimes you just have a coach comes in for the first time and you say, you know what, hey, give him a shot. For whatever the reason, it didn't work. I just think with Hackett, look, he cannot run his own offense. He's never really was ever forced to do that prior to being in Denver. It's showing. And the other part of it too is, look, I think it's just a perfect storm, but in the wrong direction, maybe an imperfect storm, if you will, where, you know, Hackett comes in. I think he's really in over his head. If Russell Wilson was really good at this point, you know, played very well this year, maybe that buys Hackett some time, but Wilson's been awful. You know, they've had a bunch of injuries. The other part of it too, in the NFL, you always have to look at the situation organizationally. Like, Walton came in and bought that team after Hackett was hired. So he has no ties to him. Like, he has no reason to say, well, it's going to look really bad for me. No, it's not. Just fire him. And he's got more money than he knows what to do with. So, you know, I could see him going out and just doing whatever he wants. But I got to tell you, that is going to be a hard situation. The Cardinals and the Broncos, in my opinion, are the two worst long-term situations in the NFL.
Yeah, and because of the quarterback, and it's because of the massive quarterback contracts, of course.
Yeah, well, and so you're tied to these quarterbacks who I don't think anybody wants to be tied to long-term. Now, Murray, you know what? The Murray contract, I remember when he signed that extension, and of course everybody remembers when the whole, you know, homework clause thing came out. And I remember I was coming back from vacation, I was texting a bunch of people I know in the league and saying, I was saying, have you ever heard of something like this? And the response I got universally, almost verbatim, was, I've never heard of anything like this, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I just don't know if you're a first-time head coach, if that's what you want to tie your future to. No. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I get you. Matt Verderam, NFL writer from Fanside, and I'm out of time. Let's do it again soon. Thank you.
Anytime. Take care.
We'll come back and wrap up the hour next. course I do. Of course I do. You're not getting anything, Puggle. Hope you enjoyed your meatloaf. Ooh, baby. Ha ha! It's Gus Johnson. That's what Gus Johnson always does. When he used to do like the NBA, he'd be like, John Starks for 3! Ha ha! That's what he was notorious for. Mavericks trail the Cavaliers 89-73, 9:50 to go, fourth quarter. Where's the run? Doesn't come soon. It ain't coming. Plus 900 on the money line for the Mavericks in that game. Timberwolves and Clippers are frozen pizza behind me on my video screen. For those of you watching the Twitch broadcast, you're like, boy, it looks like an awful stagnant game. It's because my YouTube TV is frozen. You can watch us on Twitch, by the way, twitch.tv/JasonPage77. In addition to listening to us on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Another hour of the program right around the corner. Don't go anywhere. Good to have you with us. The Cash In on SportsMap Radio. On here. Is your TV working? Ben, is your TV working? Mine's frozen. Not frozen, but spinning wheel of death. Why it's not working out here? YouTube TV's working? Huh. Mine is not. I'm playing with this instead of being able to eat. Ugh.
No, it's fine. What are you doing? I'm just grabbing a bite. I'm a big fan of the steak and cheese. It doesn't have any sauce. It's very salty. Did you salt it? No, not at all. Not even a little. Dude, so cold. I went outside. I was walking back and forth trying to find a pizza man, and I was like, my face is freezing off. He was out there, right? He told me I was there, but I weekend we did. That's why he ran over to this car park to see what it. Then I ran back there. I thought he was on his way. We think it was orange on the model. It was orange on the model.
No. Not true. Little Caesars does too. God damn it. Mavericks within 10. Hour number 2 of the program, SportsMap Radio, and the SportsMap Radio app. 1-800-224-2004 from anywhere in America, 800-224-2004. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter at the back page. Are the Mavericks about to make a run? 94-84 midway through the fourth quarter in Dallas. See if Luka and company can make one last run in this game. Minnesota and the Clippers, 33-31, Minnesota on top. How about a low-scoring game? 3:58 to go in the second quarter. It's only 33-31. Yeesh. You don't get a lot of those in the NBA these days. I mean, right now, the live total on that game is 191.5. You don't see that in many NBA games this year. Do they realize the object of the game is to put the ball in the basket? I was just making sure everybody was playing for the Clippers, and they are. Kawhi's on the floor. Paul George is playing. Everybody's playing for the Clippers. It doesn't seem to matter. And, I mean, Minnesota's without Karl Anthony Towns. So you would think it'd be easier sledding for the Clippers tonight. 16-13 on the year for the Clippers. Very uneven. But, of course, they have not had their full complement of players throughout this season. That's obviously been an issue. So can't be all that surprised with the fact that they're struggling in the early going. So we're on OBJ watch. We'll continue to see, look, at any moment he could be signed because they've got to get him in before the deadline. I think there's like a 4-week cutoff period to get him in for being able to potentially play in the postseason. Interesting what Matt Verderam talked about from Fansided in the last hour of the show. This idea of him just basically being a mercenary, that he's going to get signed for the rest of the season, and then he'll be a free agent again in the offseason. So we'll keep tabs on the OBJ story and see what transpires there. Jim Irsay making some interesting comments about Daniel Snyder. What are we talking about? I'll tell you next on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. You from Houston, Charles? Originally? Nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Born and raised. I'm wearing my Yankees sweatshirt tonight. What? Oh, you watching this? You turned on the stream? Oh. Yeah, not much fun. I'll have to cry myself to sleep in our 28 championships. But the sweatshirt I'm wearing tonight is actually from their last World Series, 2009. And it's finally starting to show some wear. So, much like this sweatshirt, the Yankees need to get another so I can get a different sweatshirt. That's good. I like that. We need to put a black man back in the White House. It's our best shot. Thanks for hanging out with us. Second hour of the show. We are guest free in this hour, and that means wide open on the phones for you guys. 1-800-224-2004. 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter at The Back Page. So much for that Mavericks rally. They're down 105-86 with 2:34 to go in the fourth quarter. Only bet available is the spread now, plus 16.5. So not going to happen for the Mavericks tonight. They will fall at home to the Cavaliers, who have been an interesting team through the first, third plus of this season. They had that big run early on, then they lost a bunch of games. They're 17-11. They got a good shot to be a top 4 seed in the East. I mean, it just goes to show you the value of a Donovan Mitchell, in addition to the talent they already had there when he got there, and Darius Garland and all those guys. So, matter of fact, Spider with 34 tonight on 13 of 18 shooting. Cavaliers shooting it at almost 55% in this game. So they're going to win 105-86, 2:34 to go in the fourth quarter. Minnesota on top of the Clippers, 39-33. That is our live betting game of the night. We are keeping tabs on that. Only other game going on, Nuggets on top of the Wizards, 125-115. Still 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter in the Mile High City. So I've talked about at great length this idea that what you basically have right now in the NFL, to some degrees, and look, I don't say it from a, guys are getting whacked standpoint or anything like that. But the NFL is kind of a house of cards, built around high-powered owners with tons of money, obviously a ton of talent on the field, but there are, without question, a number of shady practices that go on around this league, whether it's the hiring of minority coaches, whether it's the Colin Kaepernick collusion case that we've all seen and talked about ad nauseum over the years, the way draft practices are handled, the concussion matter. I mean, you can go and pick from any number of items. The Deshaun Watson case and how that played out. I mean, Deshaun Watson is still in the league with everything we know about what he did. And Colin Kaepernick never got a job again. I mean, Colt McCoy's been a quarterback in the NFL for 12 years, and Colin Kaepernick never got a job again for taking a knee. So, I mean, we already know that the league operates under sort of these shady auspices. And the Daniel Snyder case, remember, I didn't even get into the John Gruden emails that sunk his career and how all that played out in Washington. And that's part of the Washington Commanders story that continues to play out. And in recent time, there was this talk of the potential of Daniel Snyder selling his Washington Commanders. So it's basically either we'll push you or you can jump, but you're jumping off this building. One way or another, you're not going to stay on this building. It's up to you how you get off the building is up to you, but you're not staying on this building. So one way or another. And that's how the NFL has sort of treated the Daniel Snyder story. However, given everything we've learned, and we had Shalise Manza-Young on the show earlier this week to talk about it, the talented, gifted columnist from Yahoo Sports who used to cover the New England Patriots and really one of the great sports columnists in our industry, who was talking about the fact that, the NFL is, to some people, almost unwatchable because of what you know. And again, the number of people that actually are in the know about some of the things that go on around and in the NFL, the number of people is actually very small. Because all most people care about is, how's my fantasy team doing? Did I win or did I lose money? Did I cover the spread? How's my particular player doing? That's what most people care about. And be damned the rest of it, no matter what the collateral damage may be. But it's been very interesting how quiet NFL owners have been when it comes to Daniel Snyder. And I don't think enough of them have been cornered, quite honestly, and forced to give an opinion, especially in light of the story that came out this week, where you had a House Congressional Committee headed up by Rep. Carolyn Maloney, this year-long investigation by a House committee on the NFL and the Commanders found that both covered up decades, not 1 or 2 years, not a few months, decades of sexual misconduct. Now think about, and again, I'm not trying to say the NBA is any better than the NFL, is better than Major League Baseball, is better than hockey. They've all got their peccadillos. But think about for a second the NBA and the story of Robert Sarver in Phoenix. There was this long investigation. It found that he had operated inappropriately in the workplace in a number of different ways. Nothing even close or really approaching the level of sexual harassment, bullying, toxic environment. Nothing even approaching what we've seen with the Commanders. And Robert Sarver, shortly after that report came out, was gone. Suspended for a year, and now he's selling the team. Just like that. Yet in the case of the NFL, Daniel Snyder's been allowed to continue to operate without any restrictions. No suspensions, no fines, nothing. You see the difference here? So somebody cornered Jim Irsay. You know what? Congratulations to the media on this. But Jim Irsay, I was reading the story today in Bleacher Report before we came on the air tonight. Jim Irsay, owner of the Indianapolis Colts, a man that is not certainly immune to his own controversy that he's been through and his own personal issues and demons that he's had to battle that have sort of made themselves into the NFL headlines. Colts owner Jim Irsay saying on Wednesday that he is, quote, not ready to vote out Daniel Snyder as owner of the Washington Commanders. Quote, this is astonishing. Irsay said, quote, I'm not ready to vote him out. I need to hear more. I'm not ready to vote him out. Again, it's something where we want to get more information about everything. More information? You need more information than what this House committee has already revealed? You need more information than that? I need to basically catch the killer with the knife in his hands and blood dripping from it after he just pulled it out of the victim's body. That's basically what Jim Irsay was saying today. This is the same Jim Irsay that in October said removing Snyder as owner of the Commanders should be carefully considered. Quote, I'm not sure how that report's going to come out, but what has already come out is extremely disturbing, and I disagree with the process. And I most likely disagree that we haven't discussed something more severe, such as him being removed as owner. As I said, it's not something that I'm saying we should do. I'm saying it's something that has to be given serious consideration. Well, now you've seen the report, Jim, and you still don't think he should be forced to sell the team? 24 owners need to vote in approval of getting rid of Snyder as owner of the Washington franchise. Now, maybe you could make the argument, well, they're waiting because he's already hired Bank of America to reportedly help him sell the franchise. Again, you can be pushed or you can jump. There's that mentality that obviously exists here. And the possibility that he jumps and takes everybody and every NFL owner off the hook. But keep in mind, this slight shift in philosophy from Jim Irsay comes after the news that Daniel Snyder reportedly has run special ops to get intel on every bad thing every NFL owner has done. All I want to know, dude, I mean, if people think Jeffrey Epstein was killed in prison for all the stuff that he knew and all the people that he had interactions with, and there are people that believe Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Somebody killed him because of the dirt that he had on everybody. Man, Daniel Snyder better sleep with one eye open when you think about all the dirt he alleges to have on every NFL owner and how he threatens to bring down the league, including Roger Goodell, by the way. Snyder and his wife, Tanya, announced in November they had hired Bank of America Securities to consider potential transactions involving the Commanders. Bank of America is set to release the prospectus on the Commanders to potential buyers, and sources believe Snyder will most likely sell his full stake in the franchise. But is he going to take his secrets with him? Or is he going to just paint the town red, essentially, and try and take down every owner with him on his way out the door? Snyder bought, by the way, before anybody cries for Daniel Snyder for selling the franchise or being forced to sell the franchise, he bought the Commanders in 1999 for $800 million. You know what? I'm going to give Charles his first crack on the mic in this show. Ready? Charles, without a last name because he's just training on producing and engineering the show tonight. Producer, engineer, in training, Charles. All right, Charles. So Daniel Snyder bought the Commanders for $800 million in 1999. How much do you think the franchise is worth in 2022? I'll give you a guess. $1 billion? Come on, man. That's it? Are you crazy? All right, I'm not having you manage my finances. That's official. The franchise, Charles, is now valued at $5.6 billion. Where are you going to make that kind of money? 23 years, he went from a franchise that was worth $800 million to $5.6 billion. It's a lot of dough. It's a lot of cash, man. It's a lot of cash. Amazon tycoon Jeff Bezos reportedly is in the mix to potentially buy the team. I'm surprised Elon Musk isn't. He owns everything else. But just before everybody says, well, why are you getting on Jim Irsay? Jim Irsay says, I still need more evidence. I still need more information as to Daniel Snyder before I make a decision on having him sell the team. This is just the cover letter of Carolyn Maloney and the year-long investigation from a House committee, House of Representatives committee. Here you go. Ready? The committee's investigation shows that sexual harassment, bullying, and other toxic conduct pervaded the Commanders' workplace, perpetuated by a culture of fear instilled by the team's owner. By the way, that's Daniel Snyder. Despite the NFL's knowledge, through its internal investigation that the team's owner permitted and participated in the workplace misconduct and engaged in tactics used to intimidate, surveil, and pay off victims, the NFL aligned its legal interests with the Commanders, failed to curtail these abusive tactics, and buried the investigation's findings. How on earth is that not enough for Jim Irsay to know? It's laughable. All right, we're coming back. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. On Twitter at The Back Page. Live betting information just around the corner on the cash-in. It's SportsMap Radio. $1 billion? Charles, what are you thinking? $1 billion? He bought it for $800 million. Think he only made $200 million in 23 years? Are you crazy? Jeez Louise. I can still hear you, so don't say anything bad about me. Just sulking, sitting on the couch, looking sad. Back just in the nick of time. 1-800-224-2004 is the phone number. 800-224-2004. Yeah, I was just thinking about the whole money thing. Yeah, you know what? I'll save it for the next segment. That's called a tease of a different kind. I was just thinking about the sports owners with money thing. I mean, if the Redskins, I keep making that mistake. Bang! Put a quarter in the jar. If the Commanders are worth 5 point whatever billion dollars, right? If the Commanders are worth that much, then what are the Cowboys worth? Cowboys franchise worth. Let's see. It comes up in the Google. Let me type that in. $8 billion. $8 billion. Ugh. That's insane. You know who the next most valuable franchise is, though? After the Cowboys? Might surprise you. The Patriots are the next most valuable franchise. That I would not have predicted that. Patriots are $6.4 billion. With an operating income of $230 million. And that's gone up in 1 year 28%, the value of that franchise. Cowboys has gone up 23%. I'll give you the top five here. The Rams are $6.2 billion. The forever road team Rams, because every game is a road game for them. It's just I still cannot fathom the fact that the NFL team has a team in Los Angeles, two of them. One of them just won the Super Bowl, and they still can't fill up their own stadium with their own fans. But I was actually, not to go away from what I was just talking about in the team valuations. I'll finish the top five. The Giants are $6 billion. They're the fourth most valuable franchise. And number 5 is the Bears. The Bears at $5.8 billion. The Those are your 5 most valuable franchises. And then the Commanders come in at 6th at $5.6 billion. The Jets, I mean, think about this. Only in the world of the NFL can you be as bad as the Jets have been for as long as they've been and still be the 7th most valuable franchise in the NFL. That's why, man. Location, location, location. Now what they tell you when you go to launch your own business? Location is everything. $5.4 billion if you want to buy the Jets. I wouldn't give them what I have in my checking account right now for that franchise. No, I mean it. I mean, the Jets are awful. Oh, Robert Saleh's turning them around. Well, it remains to be seen. The 49ers are $5.2 billion. That's number 8. Number 9 is the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, another perennially bad franchise. I mean, who's been worse than the Raiders over the last 20 years? Okay, the Jets. But the Raiders are $5.1 billion. And rounding out the top 10, the Eagles. The Eagles, they are $144.8 million of operating income, and their value is $4.9 billion. And all of these franchises are seeing massive year-over-year changes in terms of their value. The Raiders seeing the biggest at 49%. Just astonishing when you think about it. So that's what you got for the most valuable teams. But it gets you to thinking when you look at some of these valuations and some of these team valuation numbers, why you would ever sell an NFL franchise. You know, just the equity you have in these teams allows you to pretty much do anything you want in terms of from a business standpoint. I mean, why would you ever sell these franchises? And I guess that's why a lot of people don't. Why you don't see a lot of turnover in terms of franchise ownership. T-Wolves lead the Clippers 48-43. That game is early third quarter, 8:37 to go over on ESPN. We will continue to keep you updated. Not a lot of value there in terms of live betting. The total right now is 184.5. Wow. That is really low. It means you're talking about, a 93-92 sort of game in terms of a final. And you wonder if it gets that high when you look at what the score is now. The under might be the play there. But we'll continue to keep an eye on it as we move through the show. 48-45. Oh, we got to do our look-aheads tonight. I have not even put that in the rundown. We usually do our our NFL weekly look-aheads. We take a look at all the lines in the NFL, and I'll give you some early thoughts on how I'm feeling about the games. I was 1-4 last week on Page's picks, so we're just going to try and push that aside and start anew because my picks had been going pretty well. Page's picks was starting to round into form, and then unfortunately last week we hit a bump in the road. So we're 28-29 on the year. We're a game under 500 for Page's picks. We'll try and get that. We'll try and get that fixed this week for you guys. So we will have our week 15 look ahead coming up here in a couple of minutes on the show. Look at all the NFL lines Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, who we're liking, who we're not. I'm not telling you to lock in picks, but just kind of giving you an idea as to what's out there. So stick around for that. Also, some thoughts on this crazy baseball offseason and all the money be handing out on the cash-in. Stay with us. Charles. Charles is engineering and producing the show tonight. Thought he was DJing a hip-hop concert. Getting ready to come back on the air. He goes, Mike's hot, Mike's hot. Good to have you with us tonight. 20 minutes till the top of the hour. SportsMap Radio, the SportsMap Radio app. If you want to watch the show, you could at twitch.tv/JasonPage77. Tonight you're watching me eat a whole lot of food during the breaks. It's like mukbang. If you don't know what mukbang is, you have to go look it up yourself. But it's when people basically eat food live on a video stream. Go turn on like all these video streaming services. There are literally like tens of hundreds of people. This is a true story. Did you know this, guys? You guys back in Houston may not know this. But there are people who literally just eat food. There are literally people that just eat food on live video streams, and they've got a zillion people watching them. Is she into like the ASMR ones too, where people go like, hi, and I'm talking like this. And they do like weird things to manipulate the microphone. And oh my God, have you never heard of that one? Yeah, I think it's AMSR, I think is what it's called. And you'll basically see, and it's always women. And it's women who get these super high sensitive microphones. Like they turn up the settings so that literally if they smack their lips, it sounds like, you know, an atomic bomb just went off in your ear. And you'll hear this, and they'll get real close and they'll go, hello, I am talking to you. I swear this is what they do. And there are people making money off of this stuff. It's amazing. You can make money doing just about anything. Eat Tide Pods on a video stream. Don't eat Tide Pods on a video stream. But people do this stuff and they make money. It makes me jealous because I'm doing something I think is far more valuable than that, and I'm not making that kind of money. I'm telling you, I missed my calling. It shouldn't have been sports talk I did. Should have been something else. Speaking of, talk about natural selection. You know, survival of the fittest. You get people that do these dumb things and they just sort of eliminate themselves from our daily life. Headline from the Daily Mail. Police are warning people not to walk on frozen lakes as stupid TikTokers, it always comes back to TikTokers, post videos of themselves skating and playing ice hockey with some falling through the thin ice. Oh, how funny. I'm falling through thin ice. Watch my 700 followers as I fall through thin ice while I'm playing ice hockey. Oh, glub, glub, glub. This is what people are doing. This is what people think is entertaining on like social media videos and the like. Eating on camera, which I'm guilty of tonight. Talking like this into a microphone. And doing stuff like that. And apparently walking on thin ice. You ever hear the saying, you're skating on thin ice? Of course. The fun lovers have been branded stupid by people on social media as they put their lives at risk while enjoying the Arctic blast that has hit in the UK. Oh, at least it's not in the US that people are doing it. See, they're not used to that kind of ice in the UK probably. That's what it is. So at least they're not doing it in the U.S. But I just blows my mind sometimes. These stories that yet again prove the idea that, you know what, if you just give people enough time, that we'll eliminate the dumb ones by themselves. We'll just eliminate all the stupid people without having to do any work ourselves. All right. Timberwolves now trail the Clippers. I told you. The odds makers knew what they were doing. Clippers lead the T-Wolves 58-54. 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. That extremely low-scoring game going on right now in Los Angeles at crypto.com arena. So every week on the show on Wednesday, I like to give you a peek ahead at what is going to be as it relates to the lines in the NFL. So let's do it. Let's look ahead at Week 15 and some of the lines. I'll give you some of my early thoughts. We've got 3 days of football in Week 14. Actually, you got 4. Because you've got Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the Monday night game. So you've got 4 days of NFL football that you can sink your teeth into one way or another. Find an excuse to get away from the family during the holidays. Just lock yourself in a cave and watch some football. So, game number 1, it's the Thursday night game. San Francisco in Seattle to take on the Seahawks. It's a huge divisional showdown with those two teams battling atop the NFC West. Seattle +3 and +148 on the money line. I love home underdogs, but Seattle's been a little uneven in their play as of late. Defensively, they are not that good. And while San Francisco is not an offensive juggernaut, Brock Purdy has acquitted himself quite well in his first 2 games, one as a starter and one in relief of Jimmy Garoppolo. The total is 43.5. None of those I feel comfortable with. All right, Saturday football. We've got 3 NFL games on Saturday, starting with the Vikings at home against the Colts. Listen, the Colts have played everybody tough. They've been in a lot of close games this year. And the Vikings, look, they're coming off a terrible loss in Detroit against the Lions. And they're starting to be exposed, I think, as a bit of a fraud, despite what their record is. And they're going to be a playoff team, and they're going to win the division, and all of that is fine. And they'll probably beat the Colts this week. -4.5 feels like it's a bit low when you consider the records of these two teams, but it just goes to show you there's just not a lot of street cred out there right now for the Vikings, despite what their record is. Still, if I was leaning anywhere, it would probably be towards taking the Vikings -4.5. Yep, I'll be the sucker. Game number 2 on Saturday is a big divisional matchup between the Ravens and the Browns. And it doesn't look like the Ravens are going to have Tyrod Huntley at quarterback. So it's going to be this rookie, Anthony Young, that likely, or Anthony Brown, whatever his name is, that gets the start for the Ravens in this game. Deshaun Watson has not been very good so far for Cleveland. But this is another opportunity for him this week. Again, a game I don't feel terribly comfortable with. The total is 37.5. If anything, I would be leaning towards the under in this game. Miami and Buffalo, the Dolphins and the Bills. Big showdown between those two teams. Has the league figured out Tua Tagovailoa? I ran out of time to ask that of Matt Verderam when he joined us in the first hour of the show tonight. And I'm just not keen on this idea of Miami being able to go into Buffalo and beat this Bills team. That is, right now, the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl. Did you know that? I was looking at the odds last night. Buffalo right now is the best odds to win the Super Bowl. Plus 380. Philadelphia is actually second at plus 450 along with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you consider what we've seen out of these teams this season, that Buffalo at plus 380 is the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl. If anything, I would have had Kansas City in that spot. I think the loss of Von Miller is going to be killer. Not necessarily during the regular season, but when we get to the playoffs for the Bills, I think it's going to be something that hurts them, because Von Miller was sort of the heat-seeking missile for Patrick Mahomes. You know, he was the guy that you'd have out there that could keep tabs on Mahomes, and really a game changer when those two teams meet up. And now you're not going to have him. He's done for the season. So the Bills at home for the Dolphins, -7, 43.5 is the total. The weather is going to be an issue. And when I see bad weather games like this, I would always tend to lean towards the under. The Falcons in New Orleans to take on the Saints. You got a new quarterback out there for the Falcons coming off of a bye week, so they've had a couple of weeks to sort of integrate him into the offense. The Saints have been a mess. They had every opportunity in the world to really put themselves in a position to win the NFC South, and then they coughed it all away late in a loss against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a couple of weeks back. So I don't have much faith in either of those teams. Not a game we'll probably be looking at for Paige's picks. 42.5 is the total there. Detroit and the Jets. This is such a big game. I think there's a real chance the Lions make the playoffs. I know by the percentages their odds are not very good, but what Detroit is doing right now, Dan Campbell has people believing in Detroit, and that's always tricky when you're a fan because you're used to, like Charlie Brown with Lucy pulling away the football. You always feel like you're just one game away from somebody pulling away the football, and the team they're playing is no better example of that. The Jets, who are at home this week. It looks like Mike White will get the start. Interesting note from that preview this week that Robert Saleh has made Zach Wilson the backup to Mike White instead of Joe Flacco. Says it's simply timing and a coincidence. It has nothing to do with the way Flacco played in relief of Mike White during that loss to Buffalo. You can decipher for yourself if that's real or a bunch of BS. The Jets are +1 at home against the Lions. We're going to find out if this Detroit team is for real because the Jets defensively are going to be bringing the hammer. 44.5 is the total. If anything, I would be leaning towards the under in that game. Kansas City and Houston. Texans, obviously, the doormats of the league, despite the fact that they played the Cowboys to a near draw last week. Kansas City, -14 on the road. I mean, you will not see a bigger spread than this year for a team on the road, giving 14 points. And look, those kind of lines scare me. I always like home underdogs, but the Texans have obviously been as bad as you can get. 49.5 is the total in that game. Likely not a game that we will be doing anything with. Eagles in Chicago to take on the Bears. Philadelphia -9. That feels high to me. Bears have played a lot of close games this year. Justin Fields has been a load and a lot to handle, especially over the last several weeks. The Bears +9 at home is a game that has some appetite to me, namely because I'm not a big believer in the Eagles yet. Even though they dismantled my Giants last week, I'm still not a big believer in the Eagles. 48.5 is the total in that game. Pittsburgh in Carolina to take on the Panthers. No Kenny Pickett this week. Mason Rudolph and Mitchell Trubisky have both been taking first-team reps this week. That is a huge game for Carolina, which does control its own destiny. They win out, they will be in the playoffs, with interim head coach Steve Wilkes sort of leading the way. We talked about that with Matt Verderam earlier. Carolina -2.5. In that game, 37.5 is the total. Not a lot of respect for either of those offenses. Cowboys and the Jaguars in Jacksonville, -4.5 for the Cowboys. I hope last weekend was a wake-up call for them that you simply can't coast in this league, even against a team like the Texans. And the Jaguars have been very up and down, 5-8 on the year. Did a number on the Titans last week. -4.5 for the Cowboys in that game. 47.5 is your total. Arizona and Denver. The Cardinals and the Broncos. Arizona at +2.5. The Colt McCoy-led Arizona Cardinals. And Brett Rippon for the Denver Broncos. Can we just move on past that game? All right, we're moving on past that game. Patriots in Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. Patriots +1. 44.5 is the total there. You know what the Raiders have been. They've lost a ton of close games this year. It's been really the mantra of that team this season. Tennessee in Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. Tennessee +3 on the road coming off the bad loss to the Jaguars. 47.5 is the total there. Bengals -3.5 on the road in Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. I love Cincinnati in this game. I think the Buccaneers are in a world of trouble right now just trying to hang on to that NFC South. And the Giants and Commanders. The Sunday night game, Giants +4.5 in that one on the road. Daniel Jones has played his best football in Washington against the Commanders/Redskins/football team. I like the Giants +4.5. Continue to ride them, ATS. All right, we're coming back to wrap up this hour of the Cash In. Stick around. More to do on SportsMap Radio. Do, 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 do.
End to end. How about this one? The spin move and then right through and the finish. Let's get another look, David. What do you say? Different angle coming right at you. Oh, what a finish. He's going to find you in there. Rebounded by Bowles. Bowles with the spin move and the step through and drops the hammer.
I could literally just spend every day of my life watching bowl highlights and be perfectly content. No joke. I could literally spend every day of my life immersing myself in bowl highlights and be perfectly content. I don't know if that says more about my life or more about bowl. I mean, if you, I'm telling you, just go on Twitter and do a search for bowl. He's actually trending tonight on Twitter because he didn't. The guy is like 7'2", 7'3". He goes end to end with the ball, spin moves. I mean, he's just wow. And by the way, Nate McMillan's going to get fired. It's just can we put a countdown clock on Nate McMillan? And I don't root for people to get fired. I mean, these are people's livelihoods and families are involved in all that stuff. Although they make zillions of dollars and stuff, but to me, man, Atlanta's mailed it in. We're coming back. Final hour of the cash-in on SportsMap Radio begins in moments. What's with the 10 and 10? Can you give me a 20 and a 10? Is math this difficult? Christ on a stick. I heard 10 and then I'm like, oh shit, I gotta hurry. I can literally just watch bowl highlights. He is amazing. He really is. It's ridiculous. Unreal. Just give me more bowl. Oh my God. He made Fred Van Fleet look like he wasn't even there. Wow, I might have a better looking jump shot than Markelle Fultz. Jesus.
finds you in there. Rebounded by Bowles. Bowles with the spin move and the step through and drops the hammer. That's going to bring the roof down at the Amway Center. End to end. How about this one? The spin move and then right through and the finish. Let's get another look, David. What do you say? Different angle. Come. Rebounded by Bowles. Bowles with the spin move and the step through and drops the hammer. That's going to bring the roof down at the.
Oh, no, 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 no. Yo. Bowl. Dude, I'm serious. This guy, and the shame of it is America doesn't see him because they get no national airtime. I could watch. That dude is a cheat code. He is a human cheat code. People that size are not to be able to do the shit he's doing. He's Victor Wembanyama before he even gets to the league. Guy's insane. Do I have a favorite player, though? I mean, growing up, it was Patrick Ewing. My whole life, I was a big Ewing guy. Probably LeBron. I'm a bit of a LeBron sycophant. It's not Draymond Green, I'll tell you that. of a Wednesday/Thursday edition of the show. SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. You can also check us out on Twitch, twitch.tv/Jason Page 77. If you're looking for me there. Oh, yeah. A friend of mine just texted me, said he had Omaha Steaks, had the brisket burger tonight. If you have not taken advantage of it yet, what are you waiting for? Head over to omahasteaks.com right now, where they're running 50% off site-wide, and even better than that. I mean, as if 50% off isn't enough reason to go there. You've got time before the holidays. You still got 11 days till Christmas. You can go and get your steaks, go get your meats, your chicken, your scalloped potatoes, your hot dogs, your kielbasa, all that stuff. All you got to do is go to omahasteaks.com right now. And on top of the 50% off site-wide, you can get $40 off your order by using the promo code CASHIN at checkout. So when you go to checkout, you'll see a little button that says promo code. Click on that, type cash in, and you're going to get $40 off at checkout. Minimum order may be required, but head over there, Omaha Steaks. I've been eating it for the better half of the last 2 weeks, tonight notwithstanding, because somebody didn't feel like cooking. So we went out and did the fast pizza thing. But I'm telling you, Omaha Steaks, out of this world. Go buy it for a friend. It's fantastic. omahasteaks.com. Use my promo code at checkout. Cash in, CASHIN, $40 at checkout on top of the 50% site-wide going on right now. You only got a few more days to get it, so go and get it. Tomorrow night on the show, our usual Thursday night football bonanza. We'll also do Page's Picks tomorrow because we're off on Friday for the rest of this year. No Friday shows for the rest of the year. You'll get alternate programming instead. As we continue with this final hour of the program, we'll keep you up to date on the T-Wolves and Clippers, our live betting game of the night that we have yet to put a live bet on. That could change, though. Lovie Smith with words to live by for anybody who follows the NFL. Next on the Cash In, SportsMap Radio. Who's your favorite player? I can't hear you because I'm just hearing like commercials. Yeah. I didn't appreciate LeBron until the year where he basically carried the Cavs to a title on his own. I really appreciate just how special a talent he is, and I don't even think people realize it, because there's so many great players in the league, and him bouncing from team to team and winning 3 titles with 3 different teams. To some people, it's a negative. To me, it's a positive. But to some people, it's like, he has to go to all these different teams in order to win titles, but he's the straw that stirs the drink for me. He's such an amazing player. And at this age, this deep into his career, to do what he's still doing is just mind-boggling. Yeah. Who? I didn't hear you. Oh, Jordan's resume is better? Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, he's Jordan. Next week, we should have Mike Golick on the show. I said next week I should have Mike Golick on the show. No, the Mike Golick. Yeah, I don't want Golick Jr. I mean, it's not... It's not that I don't like him. It's just Mike Golick's my guy. What is this? Charles, what is this, Charles? Who is this? What is this music? DJ Premier? Okay. I like it. Go, turn it up. Let me hear a little more of that. Come on. Boom, 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 boom. I like it. It's not bad. It's got a good beat to it. Sure. Why not? DJ Premier. All right. 12 minutes past the hour. The cash in on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Just got word Mike Golick on the show next week. Of Mike and Mike fame. Of course, former NFL lineman. Also does the great job on the Sunday Night Football broadcasts on Westwood One. Looking forward to talking with him next week on the show. We'll let you know when we have a day for that. As I was saying, just prior to the break in this hour, we will be off on Friday for the rest of the year. Yeah, I need a little time off. So I'll be off on Friday for the rest of the year. And then we are full push right up through the Super Bowl. I haven't taken even a minute, really, other than a couple of bowling tournaments where I had to take a couple of Fridays off. I haven't even taken a minute off from doing this show since we launched it on September 5th. And even with the holidays here, I just don't feel like you could take much more than a day off here and there because you guys expect us to be on the air. You still got to work. You still got to do your thing. So I'll still be here doing mine. It's simple as that. The NBA live betting game of the night is the Clippers and T-Wolves. Clippers, as you would expect, starting to pull away, up 82-73. 6:15 to go in the fourth quarter. The total is 183.5. Hey, let's lock in a bet. Let's say under 183.5 on that. We've been hanging around that number all night. So let's take the Clippers under 183.5, the total in that game. 6:15 left to go in the fourth quarter. We'll keep an eye on it. Thank you. There it is. Sound the cash register. Clippers 82, T-Wolves 73. Under 182.5 is the number that we have given to you. 1-800-224-2004 is the telephone number. 800-224-2004. Again, on Twitter as well, at the back page. Again, hit me up there if you need me on Twitter, at the back page. So, I'm always hesitant to knock on fans because you guys are the life's blood of what we do. I mean, without you, there is no me. Without your support and without you listening to the show and interacting with the show and all of that, I wouldn't have had a career for the last 28 years. So I'm always very gracious and very appreciative of people that listen to the show. Fans of sports teams, lovers of sports, all of that. But I think Lovie Smith, who's been around the NFL and college for 40 years. And by the way, still looks like he's in great shape and could still play. I was looking at him at the podium today for Houston. Other than the gray beard, if he just shaved that thing off, you'd think Lovie Smith was still playing. Dude's in good shape. So Lovie was talking about Dak Prescott, who has obviously been around. This was actually from a few days ago. Lovie said this. But he was... It was something that resonated with me. Lovie Smith, been around the NFL for a long time. Listen to what he says about Dak Prescott and the dig he takes at the social media critics as well.
That last possession they had, it looked like Dak had to make some really tight throws. What was y'all's plan for him on that last drive?
Well, we were kind of doing what we normally do. We mix it up. We play all the different coverages, gave him as many looks as we could. Losing our corners kind of took us out of, some of our blitzes with the man. But Dak Prescott is one of the best quarterbacks in our game. And he's going to hit some. And I think they kind of showed a little bit of the champion in them. Had to get a drive, there at the end. And unfortunately for us, they were able to.
That last possession they had, it looked like Dak had to make some.
It tells you everything you need to know when you hear that kind of praise from a guy who's been around the league for so long. And you look at people that are social media critics, and I've talked to Cowboy fans, even people that have appeared on this show, who all want to sit there and say, well, Dak needs to prove he can do it. Dak needs to do it in the playoffs. And don't get me wrong, I would be completely contradicting myself if I disagreed with that, because I have banged on Lamar Jackson, who wants all this insane money, all this guaranteed money, even though he's a guy that's never proven that he could do it in the postseason. He's 1-2 in his playoff career. And I will still stick to the fact that if you make him a pocket passer, you're going to win football games. I think Dak Prescott can win as a pocket passer. He doesn't have to run around all over the field and extend plays for, 15 seconds while somebody tries to get open downfield. I don't think Dak Prescott needs to do that. But that's high praise from Lovie Smith. And when it comes to what I hear and what I read, and why some people are saying why I believe Dallas could win a Super Bowl, it's because if you listen to a guy like Lovie Smith, and some people might say, well, he's just trying to make Dak Prescott sound better because his team just got beat by him. No, he doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to do that. That's a guy who respects what he sees, watching it in person, watching it on film. Coaches like Lovie are watching the game on the micro level as opposed to fans who are watching it on the macro level. Fans are just seeing results. They're just seeing the end result of a particular play. They're not going, 99% of fans are not going and watching as coaches are, and as analysts and scouts and all these people do. They're not watching how the route got run. They're not watching if receiver was slow out of his break. They're not watching if he ran the wrong route. It's the difference between just watching a game on Sunday and then watching, the all 27 or whatever it is, where you can go and basically watch every single camera angle of a game or watch the game from above and understand what's actually happening on the field. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm watching the game more on the macro level than I am on the micro level. But when it comes to analysis, I'm going to trust Lovie Smith and what he's saying about Dak Prescott more than I am guy with the beer-stained shirt at the bar with a half-eaten pretzel sticking out of his mouth. Bad breath, halitosis, whatever you want to call it. B.O., who's telling me, Dak can't win in the playoffs. He's only got one win. Well, why is Dak a bad quarterback? He threw an interception today. Do you know why he threw an interception? Was the ball tipped? Did somebody run the wrong route? Did somebody break out of it too soon? And that's the disconnect between casual and even many diehard sports fans and the coaches and GMs that are running teams. And I'm not saying every coach and GM gets it right. God almighty, I'm definitely not saying that, because we've seen enough examples of just bad decisions from franchises as it relates to players. I think the Giants are about to make one now where they're going to stick with Daniel Jones beyond this season as their starting quarterback. And while I think he's a good, solid, average NFL quarterback, he's not somebody you're probably ever going to win a Super Bowl with unless you put tons and tons of talent around him that most teams just can't do because of the restrictions that are out there with salary caps and whatnot. But I thought it was very interesting that Lovie Smith, made it a point to talk about Dak Prescott on that level as one of the best quarterbacks in the game and giving him that respect. Like I said, he doesn't have to. And he did. But again, the Twitter analysts out there are going to tell you Dak Prescott's not good enough to win. I think he is. Again, I've seen Trent Dilfer, Brad Johnson, Doug Williams. Give me some other bad quarterbacks that have won Super Bowl. I mean, there's been plenty of them. You can win and those guys were not as good as Dak Prescott. Brad Johnson was not as good as Dak Prescott. Trent Dilfer was not as good as Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott can play this game at a high level. Again, I feel like the Cowboys played down to the competition a little bit last week, and we talked about it with Nick Ferguson earlier on the show this week, former NFL safety. That's real. That's straight from the horse's mouth. That sometimes teams play down to the level of their competition, and that's what happened with the Cowboys against the Texans last week. I'm not some Cowboys apologist. Anybody who listens to this show knows. I mean, my rooting interests are with New York sports teams. But the Cowboys and the 49ers, I will keep saying this until I am blue in the face. Cowboys and the 49ers are the two teams right now that one of those two teams is going to come out of the NFC. We'll see if I'm right. 1-800-224-2004, and it's where my betting interests lie with both those teams. You know, if I'm looking at futures betting right now, and we talked about this on the show last night, the NFL futures betting right now as it relates to the Super Bowl, it is San Francisco plus 900 and the Cowboys plus 900. So Vegas agrees in terms of, after the Eagles, who the two best teams are in the NFC. I think Philadelphia is going to wind up coming up short. They will have home field, though, throughout the entire NFC playoff picture, and that obviously will mean a great deal. And you get to Philadelphia in January, and who knows what kind of weather you're dealing with at that time. Could be sort of an equalizer to whatever home field advantage you have. I think the Cowboys game travels. I think the thing about, to me, is what the Cowboys and Niners do travels well. Doesn't matter where they play. They can beat you on the ground. They have great defenses. The 49ers better than the Cowboys, but both of them are very good defenses. And to me, that carries the day when you get to the playoffs. Good defense is going to beat a good offense every day of the week. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. So there is so much money being spent around Major League Baseball in this offseason. Carlos Correa being the latest example of that. And we talk about all the money being spent, but we don't talk enough about the money that isn't being spent. I'll get to that on the other side. It's the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Wow. Oh, what a terrible flop. I don't care how you feel about dogs. Hey, Belmer, thoughts on the podcast? Draymond, Verderam. No, I got it. I get the hint. Yeah, you did. The Daniel Snyder stuff, I think we can probably do something with. Yeah, that should be fine. No, you think it sucks. It's all right. I'm over it. No, it's okay. Really, I get it. Charles, the show sucks. You don't want to work on it. So, we've talked so much about the money being spent in this Major League Baseball offseason. What, like $3 billion worth of contracts, I think it is now, if I'm not mistaken. And the latest deal going to Carlos Correa, it'd basically be a giant until he's like 60 years old. It's like the Bobby Bonilla deal. They're still paying him every year. You look at some of the numbers being handed out, and you start to get a glimpse at the payrolls for next year. Let me just give you some of this. The Mets have the highest payroll in baseball right now for next year. $244 million. Wow. How much does a payroll have to be, an MLB payroll have to be, in order for the luxury tax to kick in, I wonder? Have to be for luxury tax. I just want to look this up. Luxury tax. Let's see. If you go over, so the threshold is $233 million. If you exceed that predetermined amount, that $233 million, then you got to pay the luxury tax. So the only team right now that's over that number is the Mets at $244 million. The Yankees are the next highest at $207 million. Then the Phillies at $175. The Padres, interestingly enough, are only $172 million. Feels like it's a lot more than that, doesn't it? And then the Dodgers are $165 million. Now, there's some thought that the Dodgers are shedding payroll because next offseason they want to go after Ohtani. But that's not the point of why I'm bringing this up. I'm just giving you the top end here for a second. The league average for payroll. Let's let John Belmer play a little bit here. John Belmer, our producer, engineer extraordinaire on the show. Because the last time I asked Charles a question about the value of something, he showed me he doesn't know the value of $1. So we're not going to ask him. I said, how much do you think the Commanders are worth when they were worth $800 million in 1999? He's like, $1 billion? I'm like, come on, man, you got to do better than that. So Belmer, I'll give you a crack at this one. What do you think the league average is for payroll? Keep in mind the Mets are $244 million, and I just gave you the top five with the Dodgers at $165 million at number 5. I didn't say between. I said give me a number. You're close. 102. So not bad. Yeah. No, you're not that bad. 102 million is the average payroll in the league. But here's the problem, and this is why some owners bristle at the idea of the luxury tax. Everybody likes to say, well, go out and spend some, as much as possible and then just pay the luxury tax, which, the teams like, the Dodgers have had to do in recent years. As a matter of fact, 2022, let's bring up the 2022 payroll here. 2022 payrolls. You ready for this? The Dodgers, Mets, Yankees, and Phillies were all over the threshold. All 4 teams were over the threshold. Dodgers were $270 million, the Mets $268, Yankees $252, and the Phillies $244. So all the luxury tax money then goes to the smaller market teams. And this drives owners crazy because they're saying all these teams do is pocket the money. It's not like the whole idea of the luxury tax was to give it to the smaller market teams and then they go spend it to go get players. But that's not what's happening. They're just putting the money in their pockets. It's like these companies all over the United States during COVID that were taking COVID handouts from the government, and they weren't giving it to employees. They were doing it as buybacks of stock and using it to sort of pad their coffers as companies. Well, this is what the luxury tax in baseball has been way before there was ever these COVID handouts. So I'm going to give you something shocking here. Ready for this? This is mind-blowing. I just saw this and I almost fell out of my chair. So basically $102 million is the league average for payroll. I gave you the top end. And remember, these teams still got to sign more players and all that stuff. Mets, still have to go get other players and stuff like that. I'm going to give you the bottom 5 payrolls. This is going to blow your mind. The Kansas City Royals payroll is less than some players or than like a particular player is making. The Royals payroll is $36.4 million. It's insane. The Rays payroll, $31 million. The Pirates payroll, $30.6 million. The Orioles payroll, $18.6 million. And last but not, well, it is last but least, because it really is just shocking. The Oakland A's payroll right now for 2023. I mean, this is like the movie Major League bad. Like, how bad can we be? The Oakland A's payroll for the upcoming season, as of right now, $4.5 million. I mean, it's insane. $4.5 million. That's the Oakland A's payroll for next season. I mean, even the Detroit Tigers, you wouldn't think spend a lot of money. They're just below the league average at $98.3 million. And I'm sure a lot of that is because of guys like Miguel Cabrera and stuff like that. So I get it. The Mariners are at $93.2 million. The Giants are $112.9 million. They jump up, obviously, with the move to go and get Carlos Correa. But I am fascinated to watch. Baseball needs a floor. If you're going to have a salary, I don't have a problem with having a cap or anything like that. The thing is, or what baseball is doing now, what baseball needs more than anything, they need a floor. If you as a Major League Baseball owner can't pump at least $50 million into your team, and there are right now about 10 teams that are spending less than $50 million in payroll. I mean, and some of these teams compete. The Twins for years have competed. The Brewers have been in the mix for the postseason. The Guardians made the postseason. Tampa Bay made the postseason. The Orioles were in the mix late in the season. I mean, all of that's great. But that's smoke and mirrors. That's not sustainable year after year after year. And baseball has got to come up with a system where I don't have a problem with a luxury tax or any of that stuff, but you've got to mandate teams are at least spending a certain amount of money and not putting money in their pockets. All these teams make money from TV deals, all those sorts of revenue deals, apparel, all of that. And you can't put money into your franchise, then you shouldn't have a team. It doesn't make sense to me. The baseball's economic structure does not make sense to me. And you've got all these teams that are just non-competitive. The Diamondbacks, the Nationals now, the Reds, the Marlins, the Royals, the Pirates, the A's. Even Colorado, which is the 9th highest payroll in the league. They just don't know where the hell they're spending their money, but they're spending it. They just don't know how to spend it. It it boggles the mind. It really does. How baseball continues to operate in this sort of system. Parity there is not. All right, let's switch gears, do some NFL. Our 2-for-1 tonight is Matt Verderam, national NFL writer over at Fansided. He joins us on the other side, talking about a whole host of issues around the NFL, including Odell Beckham Jr., where he might land. Stick around for that. It's the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. All right. So, Charles, I'm sure John has explained to you, I run the interview on this side. You just play the music and the rejoin, and you'll hear me throw to break in the interview, and you're all set. All right. I'll talk to you in 20. Thanks for being with us on this Wednesday edition of the show. A lot of news around the NFL, as always. We're at that time of the season. Good time to catch up with this guy. We haven't talked to him for a while. Our 2-for-1 tonight is Matt Verderam. Does a great job. NFL writer over at Fansided. Joins us on the Cash In SportsMap. Thanks for being with us on this Wednesday edition. Thanks for being with us on this Wednesday edition of the show. Thanks for being with us on this Wednesday edition of the show. A lot of news around the NFL, as always. We're at that time of the season. Good time to catch up with this guy. We haven't talked to him for a while. Our 2-for-1 tonight is Matt Verderam. Does a great job. NFL writer over at Fansided. Joins us on the Cash In SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. All right, so let's start with the Cowboys because Jerry Jones is making it, and again, who knows what's true and what isn't when it comes to Jerry. He has a tendency to say things sort of off the cuff and on the fly, but it sounds like a decision is close when it comes to Odell Beckham Jr. Is there any reason to believe now they're not going to sign him?
I mean, there have been reports out there, I think it was from ESPN, that Odell Beckham wasn't even going to play this year, and that came out this morning. So I have no idea what's going on with Beckham. Like I reported months ago that he was looking at that 5 teams are believed to be interested in him, and the Giants were already known to have been lurking, and the Cowboys are basically always known to lurk. And some of those teams have moved on, or just have simply just not played well enough to bring him in. Teams like the Rams and the Packers. I think at this point, if he's going to sign somewhere, it's going to be Dallas. I think the Cowboys are obsessed with the star system. If they get Beckham in there, Jerry's looking at it in 2 ways. Jerry figures, hey, if he's on the field and he helps us, that's positive. And also, we can sell a bunch of jerseys. And that's how Jerry looks at it, because Jerry's thinking to himself, man, we sell a whole bunch of jerseys out of the team store with a 13 on the back. So I think if he's going to sign somewhere this season, it's a pretty good bet at this point. It's going to be Dallas.
Is there a thought, though, that, you get him now, you get him before the deadline for him potentially being able to play in the postseason, with the idea that if you make a deep run, something the Cowboys haven't done in ages, but if you make a deep run, you'll still be able to potentially have him, in an NFC title game potentially?
I think it's worth it. I mean, look, I think if you're one of these teams, it's worth kicking tires on him. I mean, look, at this juncture, whatever you do, you're signing him as a mercenary for the rest of this year. He's not going to sign past this season, obviously. It's going to be a quick rental, and then he's going to hit the market again. He's going to try to cash in. And I'll tell you, I think this market's going to be fascinating, because let's say he doesn't play, and he hits free agency next year in March with the rest of the free agency crop, and it's not a great group of receivers. The market went crazy last year at that position. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill getting these $30 million deals, and Christian Kirk getting $20+ million a year from Jacksonville. Like, he's not going to get $30+ million. I mean, Beckham at this point, he's in his 30s. He missed an whole year with an ACL. But what is he going to command? Like, is he going to get Christian Kirk money? Is he going to get more than that? I'll be fascinated to see what kind of a contract he gets. But I think right now, if you're Dallas, there's no point. Like, if you could get him for a song, I mean, why not? Why not do it? Maybe just his contract is basically just all incentives, and he's either okay with that or he's not.
Is he? I wonder if at this point he's sort of late career Terrell Owens. When Terrell Owens went to go play in Buffalo, if he's that sort of guy that you just don't give a long-term deal to, that you bring him in for a year, maybe 2 years tops, maybe the second year is a team option, whatever it may be. That he's that sort of guy that, because of the way he left the Giants, the way he left the Browns, and it was just a short stint in Los Angeles with the Rams, that maybe he's just this sort of guy that, while he is a world of talent and can certainly make an impact, teams are just not going to want to make the long-term investment in.
I wouldn't. I mean, and that's not because, like, sometimes you hear that and you think, oh, he's a bad guy. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's a guy who it's been hard to keep him happy for a long period of time. And part of that, to be fair to him, is I think, look, the Giants, when he left, they were a dumpster fire at that point. I don't blame him in the least for wanting to get out of there. And the Browns, I mean, that speaks for itself. Although I will say, the Browns really, when he was there, were actually on the come up for a while. I mean, they actually were starting to get better. But, the quarterback situation, everything unravels there. So the other side of it too is, forget even personality wise, he's been injured a lot. He's on the wrong side of 30. Now, to me, I would be concerned about giving him 2 years guaranteed, because you have no idea what kind of return you're going to get for that. And I'd rather, at this juncture, with all these receivers who've come out of the draft the last couple of years, who have just been phenomenal talents, I'd rather just go draft a receiver in the first 20 picks, 30 picks, and just say, you know what, we got 5 years of control on the cheap. I'd rather go that route.
I got to say, though, my whole beef with the idea of the Cowboys getting him is, you've got a good thing from a chemistry standpoint now. This team has shown how mentally tough it is. They got through the issues at the beginning of the year without Dak, and they were able to sort of keep the boat afloat and then some with Cooper Rush at quarterback. You know what your identity is. I wonder how much bringing in somebody like him, if he were to play, and again, it doesn't look like he's going to, but even just in the locker room and having him around the team, you just wonder from a chemistry standpoint if it's the right move and if Jerry even cares.
Well, that's the thing. Does Jerry care? I mean, that's the whole argument. I think for Jerry, again, it comes down to two things. Can he win you some games? Maybe. And can you sell a lot of jerseys? Yes. So I think right there it makes it interesting for Jerry.
And you block the Giants from getting them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I think if you're Dallas, you're sitting there looking at the NFC and you're thinking to yourself, okay, look, realistically, this conference is Philadelphia, it's San Francisco, and it's us. I mean, because I know Minnesota fans would be rankled by that. I don't think anybody looks at Minnesota realistically and should go to the Super Bowl. So if you are a Cowboys fan, or if you're somebody even in the building with Cowboys, I think you're right to look at the conference and say, well, you got Philadelphia who's 12-1, who's been awesome. We're a contender at 10-3. We have a great defense. We have an offense that certainly is capable. And then the Niners, I mean, it seems like they could put me at quarterback and win 12 games. So I think you feel like, hey, listen, you've got to respect them. They've got a great roster. They might have the best roster in the NFL outside of the quarterback. So I think if you're the Cowboys, if you think Beckham can make the difference in one big playoff game, that might be the difference between going to the Super Bowl and not.
I look at what the Patriots have done this season, and granted they went in and beat a Cardinals team that was playing without Kyler Murray virtually the entire game. I get it,
yep.
But I look at what the Patriots have done this year, and I'm not a Patriots sycophant by any stretch of the imagination, but 7-6 in a tough AFC, with the lack of talent they have in the receiving game. Sort of scuffling along with Mac Jones this year. Then they had the Mac Jones injury. For all the things he's done as a head coach, this might be one of Bill Belichick's better coaching jobs. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. I think last year was one of his best coaching jobs. They're not good roster-wise. I mean, Patriots fans always go crazy when I say this. Uche and Judon, awesome tandem on the edge. The rest of that team, it's like just the guy central. I mean, I don't. The secondary, I think they're better than anybody expected. I like Duggar, I like McCourty, but they're not. You don't look at the patch and go, "Wow, they have 5 Pro Bowlers on that team." I mean, you don't. I don't know if they have 1 Pro Bowler on offense. I mean, maybe one of the backs like Stevenson, but I mean, they're not an offensively challenging team. I mean, they're not a team that you're going to play and be worried about playing if you're a defensive coordinator. And yet they're 7-6, and they're going to go play the Raiders this week, and they're going to beat the Raiders because Josh McDaniels is not beating Bill Belichick. So, I think you look at it, which, by the way, ironically, he actually did the one time they met up, Denver in the past years ago. History will not repeat itself this season. But you know what? I just think the Patriots are great at one thing: they don't beat themselves. You have to beat them. They're not going to take a bunch of penalties. They're typically not going to turn the ball over very much. They're going to be very schematically sound. And that sounds boring, and it looks boring sometimes, but that wins a lot of football games. If you do that, you're going to win a lot of games. And New England, over the last couple of years, no Tom Brady, not a lot of talent on offense, and yet they find themselves year in and year out in the playoff race because they do not give games away.
Matt Verderam, NFL writer at Fansided, joining us here on the Cash In SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. All right, let me run through some coaching questions with you. Carolina, Steve Wilks, he has to have earned that head coaching job with what he's done with a Carolina team that was basically left for dead. They got rid of Christian McCaffrey. They fired the head coach. I mean, there was all sorts of disarray there. He's basically had him play 500 ball, I think, since he got there. Has Steve Wilks earned this head coaching position, and what's taking them so long to give it to him?
He has, in my mind. I mean, look, you can fake a lot of things in the NFL. You can't fake effort. And the Panthers, that's a team that traded away Christian McCaffrey. There's all kinds of rumors about, they're going to trade Moore. Are they going to trade? Are they going to move up Brian Burns? And of course, they didn't. But that team has played really hard under Steve Wilks. They are buying into him. They want to win for him. That stuff matters. Like that stuff, you can talk about all the other stuff in the world. That team has very little talent. I mean, Darnold is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. Defensively, they have some. I mean, I like Horn. I like Burns. But they need a lot of pieces. And yet they find themselves, now this is because of the division, if we're being fair. If they win out, they win the division. They make the playoffs. I mean, it's crazy as that is. They are in control of their own destiny. So I think Wilkes absolutely deserves a job. And people who say, well, he was one and done in Arizona. I defy anybody to tell me who could have coached that Arizona team and done anything. That team was a tire fire. Lombardi couldn't have coached that team to 7 wins. So, to me, Steve Wilkes absolutely deserves a shot at the head job in Carolina.
Cliff Kingsbury, will he make it to another season? The injury problems, no DeAndre early in the year. There's some excuses for him there. Is Kingsbury going to be back in Arizona?
That is a really, really interesting situation because he signed an extension before the season began. And that stuff's always murky with coaches, like how much did he sign for and how much of it's guaranteed. But are there options to get out of it, buyout clauses, stuff like that. So it's hard to say based off of that. But Michael Bidwell, who owns the team, is not exactly known as someone who just throws money around left and right. I have a hard time thinking he's going to want to eat a huge chunk of that contract and then also go out and get another head coach. My gut is that he's back. The only thing that you could say, hey, look, they just got to move on from him is it has been so bad with him and Murray publicly all year long. And Murray, you're not moving on from. He's going to be there for the next couple of years at a minimum. And then today, Steve Keim, for health reasons, he's going to be on the rest of the year. You wonder with Keim, who also got an extension this offseason, is he back going forward? Because if he's not, then I think Kingsbury's gone. Because then I think you have a situation where GM's going to come in there and go, look, I want a new coach. And it's going to be really hard for Bidwell to tell the guy no. So that is a significant development.
Can anything save Nathaniel Hackett?
God. And I don't even know if God's got the power to save Nathaniel Hackett. No, man, it's over. That's beyond, though. That's been over since like Halloween. I mean, Hackett seems like a really nice guy who's really in over his head. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes you just have a coach comes in for the first time and you say, you know what, hey, give him a shot. For whatever the reason, it didn't work. I just think with Hackett, look, he cannot run his own offense. He never really was ever forced to do that prior to being in Denver. It's showing. And the other part of it too is, look, I think it's just a perfect storm, but in the wrong direction, maybe an imperfect storm, if you will, where Hackett comes in. I think he's really in over his head. If Russell Wilson was really good at this point, played very well this year, maybe that buys Hackett some time. But Wilson's been awful. They've had a bunch of injuries. The other part of it too, in the NFL, you always have to look at the situation organizationally. Like Walton came in and bought that team after Hackett was hired. So he has no ties to him. Like he has no reason to say, well, it's going to look really bad for me. No, it's not. Just fire him. And he's got more money than he knows what to do with. So, I could see him going out and just doing whatever he wants. But I got to tell you, that is going to be a hard situation. The Cardinals and the Broncos, in my opinion, are the two worst long-term situations in the NFL.
Yeah, and because of the quarterback, and it's because of the massive quarterback contracts, of course.
Yeah, well, and so you're tied to these quarterbacks who I don't think anybody wants to be tied to long-term. Now, Murray, you know what? The Murray contract, I remember when he signed that extension, and of course everybody remembers when the whole homework clause thing came out. And I remember I was coming back from vacation. I was texting a bunch of people I know in the league and saying, I was saying, have you ever heard of something like this? And the response I got universally, almost verbatim, was, I've never heard of anything like this, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I just don't know if you're a first-time head coach, if that's what you want to tie your future to. No. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I get you. Matt Verderam, NFL writer from Fanside, and I'm out of time. Let's do it again soon. Thank you.
Anytime. Take care.
We'll come back and wrap up the hour next. Pitchy, pitchy, woo, woo. So, John, it's Austin tomorrow? All right. All right, getting set to put the... Well, yeah, it's all right. We can do it again. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's get set to wrap this baby up. We're back with you on Thursday Night Football Extravaganza. Live betting talk, post-game, podium stuff from the winners and losers. It'll be a fun show as always. And we'll do Paige's Picks tomorrow because I will not be here on Fridays for the rest of this month. Taking a little time off. That's the most I could do is basically 1 day a week for the rest of this year. So got that to look forward to. But tomorrow, Paige's Picks, Thursday Night Football, whole slew of stuff. Thank you for being with us tonight. Thanks to John Belmer and Charles for producing and engineering it. I'm Jason Page. Thanks for checking out the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Bye! All right, John, you got the podcast stuff, and shoot me the promos whenever. And have a great night. All right. All right, see you later. Bye. All right. That does it for us tonight. Back tomorrow for Thursday Night Football and all the rest of that good stuff. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'll catch you back here on Thursday for the Cash In on SportsMap Radio, the SportsMap Radio app, and Twitch. You can watch us at twitch.tv/Jason Page 77. Catch y'all later. Night.